Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be engraving on a bamboo cutting board using the Onelaser XRF laser machine. Now, this is just a very old Kmart bamboo cutting board that I had in my room, and I use it for a lot of my resin craft, so it's got a lot of crap on the back of it, but the underside was still good enough to go ahead and use as a test run for this design. So this is all about testing and trialing here on my channel. I have never done a bamboo cutting board before in the Onelaser machine, so this is the first for me. Of course, naturally, go ahead and autofocus your material so that you've got the perfect height on your laser machine, and I'm using some magnets to ensure that my board isn't going to move around in the laser machine itself while it's going, because my table's a little unsteady at times. Alright, so jumping into Lightburn, I have imported 2 images from Creative Fabrica that I downloaded. I have an account with Creative Fabrica, and that is where I get a lot of my images that I can use for any kind of purpose, whether it's personal or commercial. And I have yet to decide which one I wanted to make at this point, but I ended up doing both of them in the end. So the very first one we're going to start off with is the one on the right, which is very detailed, as opposed to the one on the left, which is quite simple. So I wanted to do both of them in the end just to see the difference between the engraving and the settings, and as well as the different kind of darkness within the image as to what would come up on bamboo itself. Because I've never engraved on bamboo in the Onelaser before, and even in my previous machine, I have never engraved on bamboo such a highly detailed picture. So I've gone ahead and updated my camera overlay. So update overlay here in the camera settings, and I'm going to turn the fade off. So now you can see the timber, well, the bamboo board underneath on my screen, so I know where I'm going to line up my image on the board. Now there is 2 directions that the bamboo timber runs, and I'm going to try and keep it as best I can on the horizontal axis, so left to right as opposed to the vertical axis. So I'm just going to size this down a little bit because I don't want it to be massive, and I'm just going to move it over to the side so that I can do a couple of other designs on this board as well for test runs. So when it comes to bamboo, obviously there's a lot of grains in bamboo in itself, and I guess this is where I learnt that this design here in particular for a really detailed image engrave is probably best off for other types of timber as opposed to bamboo. I find basic graphics and text are coming up a lot better on bamboo, and I'm putting that down to simply because of the type of material that it is. So I really want to jump in and test out this image in particular on another piece of plywood or normal timber or another piece of material, basically, just so I can see the difference between the type of material and what it's going to look like with the same settings on that. Now for this image here, I'm going to use Jarvis as my image mode, and I'm going to go ahead and change my line interval. I want it to be quite low, so I ended up doing 0.056, which changes the DPI as well. And then over on the side here, this is where you can fiddle with your image settings to get the view. You can scroll in and zoom in on your image on the right hand side so you can see the details and all the little parts that are going to engrave and the parts that aren't going to engrave. And this is all very dependent on each person and the results that you're wanting. And if you've already got some experience, you know what you're after, so you can fiddle here. Me, I don't do engravings like this very often, so I don't know exactly what settings I want to use, so I have to play around and figure that out on my own. To be able to adjust the image on your screen in Lightburn, you just right click on it and go to adjust image, and that brings up this window here. So this is where I'm zooming in so I can have a look, and it shows you the side-by-side comparison of the picture itself and then what's going to engrave, and this just shows you the areas that are going to engrave and the areas that are not. And again, like I mentioned, I do think that this image in particular is going to be best engraved on a different type of material, not bamboo. And the comparison at the end of other images that I use in the text on this bamboo board, you will be able to see that result in itself. So I am pretty much just going to leave these settings, I think, where they are, and that is pretty much all I want to do at this point in time. And then I'm going to obviously change the next image and play around with them and see what settings makes the image on bamboo timber come out nicer. Making sure you press OK to save those settings, because I did not do that very first time I changed my settings. If you don't hit OK, then it won't save. Now for the settings on this engrave, I am just going to go straight in with 1200 millimeters per second, and I'm going to be using 99% power. So I just want to see what this will do to this bamboo with this type of engrave and those settings in particular, and let's send it off. Now this is real-time speed here of engraving. I am going to speed it up in a second just because you don't want to sit here and watch this entire process. The total time this engraved picture took was 14 minutes and 6 seconds. Now I'm sure to those who are in the laser world might say that that's a bit slow. To me personally, this is incredibly fast. If I was to try and engrave this on my previous machine, which was a 40-watt machine, it literally would have taken me like 35 minutes to engrave this because I've done something similar and it took forever. So literally I have hard time at these settings versus my other machine. And I used to hate having to sit there for a whole half an hour to watch my machine to make sure it doesn't go up in flames, as opposed to I don't mind sitting there for 14 minutes with my machine to make sure it's going good and no fires are happening, because it's such a short period of time and I'm doing other crafty things in between while I'm waiting, as opposed to a half an hour that you couldn't even walk away. You couldn't even go for a toilet break if you needed to. So I need to fix up my settings on my camera. My camera is definitely out of place. It's out of line. I need to go ahead and reset it because the fisheye view is on there still. And as you can see in the overlay earlier, I had this where it was only centered on the inner part of the board where it has a horizontal lines in the bamboo, as opposed to it's actually printing on the vertical part of the board. So that's just something that I need to go in because I did not configure it completely correct when I set up the machine. So that is a boo-boo on my end. So let's speed this up and we'll get to the end results of this image. This is just a screen on the actual machine itself telling you it took 14 minutes and 6 seconds, and these are the end results of this engrave for my very first attempt on the Onelaser for bamboo. Now again, the boo-boo is on the left hand side, the vertical engrave as opposed to the horizontal, and you can see in the sky here bamboo, I mean even to the very right hand side of the raw bamboo timber, you can physically see all those vertical lines of where it's all joined together. So they're quite predominant in the sky, and obviously down here it did not engrave as crystal clear and pretty as what I wanted it to, but that is okay. So we lost a lot of detail in the image itself, and that could be either the settings on the laser machine that I chose, or it could be this type of material is not best suited for this artwork. So jumping back into Lightburn, let's get this image out of the way and we will update our overlay and get the board back to exactly what we are seeing inside the laser machine to our screen so we can put something else beside it. Now I'm trying to do this one-handed and type, but it didn't come out very well, but I'm going to put some text in there, and I'm just going to put Peachy Creations, and we are going to use this as a simple text fill engrave as opposed to an image engrave. And I'm just going to change it to some kind of pretty font, and I have a whole bunch of downloaded fonts on my system that come through in Lightburn. So if you do download fonts from free websites to use, they can definitely go straight into your Lightburn to be utilized. So I'm just going to change the V space on the actual text itself. So I'm going to bring the words closer together and then make them a lot bigger as well and put them in the right place that I need them to be on the board so it looks somewhat aligned, like I meant to do this project on purpose to this board, but really is all just a massive test. So I'm going to go and change my line to a fill, and because of the settings that I have set up in my Lightburn, it's going to completely flood the text there, and that's just highlighting what is actually going to engrave. You can change these settings on your device in Lightburn. In my last video, I showed you guys how to do that. So if you want to know, go over there and check that out. And for my line interval, I'm going down to 0.06. And I'm going to keep the speed and the power the exact same as the image on the left, because I just want to see the difference between an image and changing the settings in the image itself versus just some simple text engraving fill. And I'm turning Air Assist off because I don't like all of that fumey, I don't know, sticky residue stuff from the timber that gets everywhere. So I turn that off because it's less cleanup for me at the end. But this is what we are working with, and let's see the difference between an image and a basic text. Now, because this is obviously a smaller image to engrave, it only took me 3 minutes and 90 seconds to engrave this, but this is what it looks like at the end. It is quite dark, obviously due to the lines in the bamboo material itself. You can see the lines quite visibly, and I've got a little bit of that charring, as you can see on the outsides of the lettering, but I will clean that up later, so it's no biggie to me. Now, for my third and last attempt at bamboo engraving on the Onelaser XRF, I am just going to update my view for my timber in my laser machine, move my previous work out of the way, and I'm going to put one more picture down the bottom and just going into import, and I'm going to be using the image I showed you earlier, which is this very basic Highland cow. Still has some detail, but it's not as detailed as that image to the left. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller just because I want to make things go a little bit quicker here. And back into adjust image, I'm going to try and do things a little bit differently this time. I am going to use Stucky or Jarvis. I think I changed it up this time. I'm going to use Stucky this time. I used Jarvis for the first one, so let's see what Stucky looks like. And I'm just going to change the contrast and go pretty high for that. And I'm also just going to go into the same line interval as earlier and just have these settings as they are for a little bit different, not too far off from what I had earlier, but different image mode and then a lot deeper contrast on the image. When it comes to the gamma, I took that back down because it kind of eliminated a lot of the actual dark part to my cow. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with these settings when it comes to this basic image and the results I personally love. So these will definitely be settings that I will continue to use in the future and might be something that you want to use for your engravings on bamboo as well. For this image, I am going to slow the machine down and I'm going to be using 900 millimeters per second for the speed. I am keeping the power exactly the same, and obviously going with a lower speed, I'm going to get a little bit of a deeper engrave because of it's not moving as fast as the 1200 millimeters per second. So let's see the results of this one and hope it comes out even better. Now this is real-time speed here on 900 millimeters per second, and of course it is going to be slower than 1200, so this image took 5 minutes and 87 seconds to engrave completely. It has come out a lot nicer. I like the depth a lot better on it. And I mean, this image isn't overly small. It's probably the same height as an iPhone Plus. And, you know, obviously if you're going to slow it down, you're going to take a longer time to engrave as opposed to a higher speed, but you're obviously going to get lighter, a lighter depth on the engrave itself. So let's speed this clip up and jump to the end results. So here are the results in the end. I think it turned out pretty damn good. There is a lot of detail in the flower crown. Despite the fact that bamboo isn't my favorite type of timber to work with because of the lines, it still looks very good. The depth I really enjoy, and this setting I will definitely use in future for bamboo cutting boards. Now this is what it looks like in natural lighting. I quickly took it outside to show you guys how it looks in non-artificial light, and it still looks pretty good. This one not so much, but the others are great. Now I'm just going to take some white vinegar and a rag, and I'm going to clean up my engravings because I have a lot of that sticky residue from the material on the board, and you can see on the outside it's quite yellowish, so we want to get rid of that and make it nice and clean. Of course, if you're going to be using this for food and for serving, you're going to want to clean it thoroughly, or perhaps put a coat over the top of it because you don't want that timber to get on any of the food. But for decoration purposes, I just like to go ahead and give it a clean up with some vinegar, and it works perfectly. So it's no longer yellow and brown on the outside of my engravings, it's nice and clean. And after that is all cleaned up and dried, this is what it looks like. Now I love the text and the baby Highland cow, they look amazing. Those settings are definitely something I will use in future. For the detailed image, not so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching the Onelaser XRF laser machine in action on a bamboo cutting board. I hope you've learned something or learned how to not do something here in this video today. And please make sure you check out their website. I have a link directly in the description box down below. That link there helps me and supports my channel. So by clicking that, you're doing me a massive favor if you are interested in the Onelaser machine. Definitely drop your comments and feedback down below, and if there's anything you want to see me do in the laser machine, please let me know, because I'm more than happy to do anything and everything on this laser machine. See ya!